Hello, this is the Haunt Informer, and today I'm talking about my favorite Hayride scenes this haunt season. Starting off, I'm going to talk about my favorite scenes on the Haunted Hayride at Reaper's Revenge. Really good quality hayride, lots of great scenes, really good actors. I had a wonderful time on the Haunted Hayride this year, and some of my favorite scenes are Pumpkin Hill. And Pumpkin Hill is very visually stunning, very aesthetically pleasing, really gets you in the fall mood. There are tons of pumpkins on both sides of the wagon. There's so much to look at. They're really well lit so you can see them. Some are really high up, some are lower. That scene does not have any actors because it is a bumpy hill, but they go at a slow pace so you can really appreciate all the detail they put in those pumpkins, and I really enjoy that scene. Another standout scene on the Reaper's Revenge Haunted Hayride is the Alice in Wonderland scene. It is so good. It starts out with a laser light show on some cloth above the hayride. It's really cool, and it starts out with a really intense loud audio. It totally gets you into the spirit of it, and then you pull up past the laser light show, and there's a whole bunch of really good quality theming of Alice in Wonderland with a whole bunch of mushrooms, and they have the whole setup with the Mad Hatter, and he's drinking tea, and then he starts talking to you. Alice gets on the hayride and starts talking to you, and she's very whimsical and totally in character. They also have a projection of the Cheshire Cat talking to you, and Alice actually interacts with him. It's really well done. I really enjoyed the scene, and that's just the first part. Then you go on, and you actually stop, and you look at another screen, and that is where you see the Queen of Hearts. There's a really good quality distraction scare where you are distracted by the Queen of Hearts projection, and then they have a custom giant card and with a giant skull holding it, and when she's done talking, that card is actually made out of metal, and it's on a hinge, and it'll actually slam down and make a really loud noise. And that's a really good startle scare. Reaper's Revenge takes full advantage of your favorite horror movie characters, and they do them justice. They have Freddy Krueger in a toxic waste scene. That actor's great. They have The Ring with Samara, and the actress there does a really good job. She crawls very creepily out of the well and onto the wagon and is snapping her arms. There's also a scene with Jason Voorhees, and he comes out of the shack at you with his machete. He gets on the wagon and intimidates everyone with his machete. When I went to Reaper's Revenge back in 2018, they did have Michael Myers on the Haunted Hayride, but they put him in a different area this year. This year he's actually in the Suicide Forest area, and what I'm talking about with that is they have a whole bunch of bodies hanging from the trees above you, and it's strobe lit. And this year they have the soundtrack from the original Halloween, the 1978 Halloween, playing, and Michael Myers gets on the wagon and stares everyone down. He's really in character. The last scene on the Haunted Hayride at Reaper's Revenge is when you actually encounter the Reaper, and he is this massive Grim Reaper, and he comes to the wagon and attacks it, and there's a very loud soundtrack of the Reaper yelling at you and attacking you, and there is a human-sized Reaper that gets on the wagon and is scaring people, and then you have the massive Grim Reaper coming at you from the sides of the wagon, and the soundtrack's very intense, and the lighting is changing and strobing, so it's a really intense scene. I really enjoyed it, and it really is a great end for Reaper's Revenge, actually encountering the Reaper of Reaper's Revenge. My favorite scenes of the Field of Screams Hayride this haunt season was the Shade Cryogenic Testing Facility and Skip's Scrapyard. Both were updated this year. The Shade Cryogenic Testing Facility was a new scene last year. It is a giant 3-room scene. It's really impressive. It's very visually stunning, and they added a brand new pre-show to it this year. You actually get stuck in the first scene, and there's a very impressive pre-show, and you see 2 big impressive animatronics of crazy beasts from Distortions Unlimited, and they're in chains, and they're going crazy and shaking all over the place, and there is a doctor in there yelling at you and telling you what's going on and what testing he's doing, and then the lights go out, and those really loud screams from those monsters are going off. After that first scene, you go into the other scenes of the Shade Cryogenic Testing Facility. It's all very detailed. They have a whole bunch of new props of the scientists that were in there. Field of Screams had a scrapyard scene last year, but they have done major improvements to it. It is a completely different scene this year. It's really well done. I really enjoyed all the effects. And what was really unique about it, I actually hadn't seen this at any other hayride. They actually had crane claws that actually opened and closed that moved on metal lines above you, metal cables. And there were mobile crane claws moving, and some of the crane claws had prop bodies of people that they've grabbed and killed, and then there's a giant fence, and that fence actually falls at the wagon, and actually says dismemberment zone on there. And they have a whole bunch of props of dead bodies and body parts over there. It's a highly detailed scene, and there's a whole bunch of fire effects. It's very visually stunning. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the Night of Terror. And I really enjoyed the Night of Terror Haunted Hayride. It was definitely different than a lot of other hayrides I've been on. Had different unique scenes I hadn't seen before. The first scene on the Haunted Hayride, you go in and the hayride actually starts shaking. The hayride is actually on a platform that's shaking it. And I really thought that was cool. So like the evil spirits of Night of Terror are shaking it, and a necromancer animatronic comes up next to you and starts talking to you about Night of Terror, and then an actress jumps out and bangs down the door, and she says, "Welcome to the Night of Terror." And it was a good start to the hayride. I liked it. I thought it was effective with the hayride shaking and the necromancer animatronic right next to you. It was a great setup, and then the hayride just continuously gets crazier and crazier further you go. It's a pretty long hayride. There's lots to see, lots of really cool scenes. The scene that stood out to me was the clown scene, and there are clown scenes at lots of haunted hayrides, but this was different than other ones because they actually had a net above the wagon, and there were clowns up there. They're actually doing somersaults and screaming at you and talking to you from up there. I hadn't seen that at any other hayride. I was really impressed by that. When you went into the scene, it was actually dark, and then right when you were in the middle of the scene, all the lights turned on, and they were all black lights, so all those 3D effects really stood out on the walls. It looked really awesome. A scene that was unique to the Night of Terror Haunted Hayride that I'd never experienced on another hayride was a scene where you're being attacked by monkeys. There are monkeys in cages on both sides of the wagon, yelling at you and shaking their cages, all animatronics. It was really cool, very loud soundtrack, and it was really intense. And there was actually a monkey character above you on a catwalk, and near the end of that scene, he actually pushed a prop monkey down at you and actually came right down at the wagon. That scared some people. So I thought that was a really unique scene I hadn't seen at other haunted hayrides. A very interesting effect during one of the scenes on the Night of Terror Haunted Hayride was they used that laser swamp effect that you see in mobile haunts, where you walk through and there's a green laser above you from where you can see, and you have to walk into it, and there's a whole layer of fog, and you don't know where the actor's going to be, and then they pop up and scare you. They use that effect. So instead of using that laser effect of just driving through it, they actually turned it on its side. So it actually looks like you're going to a wall of that laser effect. And I really thought that was unique. I hadn't seen that at other haunts. They also had a really cool dinosaur scene with dinosaur animatronics, and they had a custom Jersey Devil animatronic there too. They had a skeleton T-Rex. There was a lot to look at. And definitely look at both sides of the wagon when you're at the Night of Terror or on any haunted hayride. Any of the haunted hayrides I've talked about, there's tons of detail on both sides of the wagon. So definitely appreciate that. Definitely makes you more easier prey for jump scares and startle scares. But definitely do it. Look at all the detail they put on both sides of the wagon, and you'll definitely enjoy yourself more. That was the Haunted Informer. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe and hit that bell icon to get notification every single time I put up a new video. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And I am on social media. I am on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find all those links in the description below. And what was your favorite scene on a haunted hayride this haunt season? And as always, happy hauntings.